Hello, it's Stuart, the Unrepentant Atheist, and this is my weekly roundup video. Within it, I'm also going to be reviewing a debate which I watched between Posh and Matt Dillahunty. Is Christianity rational? I thought I was seeing double here because I could have sworn that Matt did a similar debate with the same title just recently. Literally just a month or two ago. And I did look back, he did do a debate with exactly the same title. Why it's necessary to repeat these debates, I don't know. Well, I suppose he will keep repeating them because he has different opponents who want to come in and tackle him. But this thing, is Christianity rational? These types of debates essentially boil down to, in a way, or end up as, does God exist? It sort of ended up like that, but I'll talk about that in a moment. First of all, a couple of thoughts I've had, because obviously I watch a lot of videos, I see a lot of material coming in, and I have thoughts of my own and certain things which impress me to embolden my own position, which obviously is that I don't believe in God or any gods. I don't see any evidence which would be sufficient to make me believe in a God. Plus, I also see arguments, etc. And a couple of things have come up. One is on abiogenesis. I know that there are Christian biologists who've said that, well, they've asserted that it could not be that the first replicating cell could have come about naturally. I don't know how they could rule out a naturalistic explanation, and this seems to me ruling out natural explanations for the universe as we know it and all life in it that we know of. Ruling out a natural explanation for that is, to me, one of the greatest flaws in theism and the idea that there's a creator. I don't see how you could rule it out, especially as we know so much, and science has established to a very high degree that the natural universe which manifests before us did actually come about by natural means. They may not have answered all the questions, but there's no really good reason to believe that these questions will not eventually be answered. Not to say that they will definitely be answered, but they could be. So I don't know how you could rule out naturalism, basically. I'm not asserting that naturalism is true, and this will bring me on to the debate that Matt's just done in a moment. So the other thing is the idea that, let's consider a dichotomy. Whether it's a true dichotomy or not, I'm not exactly sure. But if we consider two possibilities for the universe and for life and everything that we know about, one is that it came about by naturalistic means. In other words, that the natural materialistic universe is all that's ever existed. Or that, and that an intelligence has always been in existence. This intelligent being, let's call it God, whatever you like, a higher power. There has always been this ultra complex, this infinitely complex higher being with an intelligence, with a consciousness, has always existed. It didn't come into existence. It couldn't have done. It has always existed, this complex being or higher power, whatever you want to call it. It has always existed. Either that, or there is no such thing, and a non-conscious, purely material existence has always been. If you posit those two, I'm going to have to go for the latter. I could not go for the former, mainly because such a thing would have to be far more complex than just a purely material and natural universe. If I have to choose between the two, without asserting that either one is necessarily true, this is one reason why I reject the existence of God. Because if a God exists, a God has always existed, and has got to be infinitely, well, maybe not infinitely complex, but far more complex than the natural universe which manifests before us. So either nature has always existed, the natural universe, material universe has always existed without, without this sort of essence of consciousness or anything like that, or a God has always existed. If I've got to choose between those two, which looks to me more likely, it's the less complex. It's the less complex thing which seems to me more likely to have always existed than the more complex thing. That's my rational basis. That's part of my rational basis for being an atheist. Okay. Enough of that. Let me know what you think about that. I think it's a fairly sound position, a rational position, and I think it's the right position to take. But for you Christians, theists out there, obviously you disagree, otherwise you wouldn't be theists and Christians. So let's move on to Posh. I've tried to look him up. The link from the actual web page doesn't go anywhere. Matt's link does go somewhere, but Posh just seems to be kind of non-existent. Can't seem to find any information about him. He sounds kind of educated the way he talks. So somebody said in the comments, Posh is an example of somebody who proves that you can sound intelligent but not be. Oh, that was quite funny. But rather than snarky comments, let me just move on. So this is a debate which obviously Matt's done this type of debate before. And I think this is probably one of the most indifferent debates that Matt has done, where he would let Posh talk and talk and talk, make false assertions, etc., and not respond. And even when Matt started talking, he just completely ignored the bulk of what Posh said. I don't know whether that's because he's got some disdain or disrespect for Posh's position, or he's just becoming indifferent to certain strategies, and he's just getting tired of listening to things, and now he's just picking up on the most important points. That's quite possible. So Posh started off outlining his definition of what is rationality, and he didn't do really. All he did was rubbish materialism and assert that atheists hold a materialistic position. He seems to be saddling atheists with the philosophical materialist position rather than the methodological materialist position. I've seen this strategy before by various Christians, because they're trying to shift the burden of proof. Well, you've got to prove the material world is the only thing that exists, when obviously we know that Matt is a methodological naturalist. He's not asserting that the materialist world is all that exists, but Posh does kind of poison the well a bit by starting off like that and asserting that atheists have got to necessarily hold that position of essentially philosophical naturalism, which obviously isn't the case. I can't go through the whole everything that was said. I did listen to the whole debate through. I must admit I listened to it slightly indifferently as well. I must admit to that, and I also admit that I didn't take notes. Well, I did make a few notes, just on one or two things which I found interesting. At 44 minutes, Posh claims, well, he asserts that evolution is false. And Matt says, well, prove your case then. And Posh says, Posh claims he can falsify evolution. Unfortunately, obviously, he didn't do so in this debate. They sort of moved on. And but if Posh claims that he can falsify evolution, why isn't he submitting papers? Why isn't he overturning evolution and going to the publications and the journals, Nature magazine, whatever, Scientific American? Why is he not submitting his critique of evolution? Why is he just making this claim that he can falsify evolution in this debate? Well, I suppose that Kent Hovind also believes that he can falsify evolution, for what that's worth. And I noticed that Matt didn't really press the point, because we've heard it all before. And Yeah, so just coming back to this thing about naturalism and Posh asserting that, amazingly, that if atheists have got to necessarily accept naturalism as their worldview, and that also means that you can throw out the whole of epistemology. I understand why he's saying that, and it comes back to the foundationalism, that we've seen argued from the presuppositionalist point of view, Darth Dawkins and all that kind of thing. And their point is obviously that if there's no foundation for reason and logic, then there's no foundation for the theory of knowledge, then there can be no epistemology. I understand that entirely, but as Matt would say, it's just a bold-faced assertion. And so can be dismissed. There was some talk about abiogenesis. So obviously the position that I alluded to earlier, that Christians and theists are ruling out natural explanations for abiogenesis, ruling out the naturalist explanations for the existence and the workings and structure of nature, is for me the fatal flaw, frankly, in theism. I don't see how it can be ruled out, and while it can't be ruled out, I don't see you could have any justification for accepting theism. But, well, that's my view. I'm getting away from, but they were touching on that. That's about it, really. Obviously, I haven't got time in this video to go through the whole lot, but I found it another very unhelpful debate, really, and one that debatably Matt maybe shouldn't have bothered doing. Who is this Posh guy? Does anybody out there know? I'd like to know who he is. Anyway, just one more thing. Of course, we often see this. A lot of Christians see the solution to hard solipsism in Christianity, and they did actually go through this. Matt admitted, I don't have a solution to the problem of hard solipsism, but neither does he have a reason to believe that it's true. And Posh's part of his argument that Christianity is rational is that it solves all the hard philosophical problems that at the moment the greatest philosophical minds have been unable to answer. You've got this solution to all the problems: hard solipsism, the theory of knowledge, etc., foundation of reason, justification for reason. It's all Christianity is like the magical solution to all the philosophical problems that we've got. So that's his position. He didn't demonstrate that is the case. He just asserted it. That's it. That's all for now. I'll be back again later with another video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting my channel. Bye for now.